Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. I have a friend and a returning creator on to talk about his Kickstarter. It just went live today. If you're listening to this on the first day that it dropped, it's called The Olympian. It's my pleasure to welcome writer Paul Eza back to the show. Paul, good to see you, man.
Hey, Jace, thank you so much. I'm really, really glad I could be back with you.
Yeah, so for those not familiar, if you didn't check out our episode last time Paul was on, he was here to talk about his first Kickstarter project, Heroes and Zeros. He is, I guess we'll say, the founder, creator, godfather of Acorn Comics, which
I am Acorn.
there is a link in the show notes. You can go check out Acorn Comics. You can get some information about Heroes and Zeros. You can order a copy if you missed the first round of the Kickstarter. But Paul's on today because, as I said, he has a new project coming out. If you're checking us out on YouTube, you can see the graphics there, cover, and the title, which is The Olympian. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Paul. Give us, I don't know how much you've had a chance to practice your elevator pitch, but give us the elevator pitch for The Olympian, and we'll get in a little bit about the story. There's definitely some themes of family that I want to talk about.
Absolutely. And yeah, and this one thing I've learned about myself is I absolutely suck at elevator pitches. So I'll do my best for you. So the Olympian is a story about a young man from a small town who, while going through his grandparents' attic, discovers a talisman that grants him the powers of the Greek gods. And this is something he didn't particularly expect. He's not sure how to handle. So issue one, which is the one that's coming out through Kickstarter, is kind of about his journey of realizing what this is and what it means for him and how it's going to just basically change everything he knows about his life, while also having to fend off some more nefarious folks who would like to have that talisman for their own purposes. And of course, this is meant to be an ongoing series. We have the first arc planned for 5 issues. With me and the co-creator and artist Dee Fish, who's done some wonderful things on her own. She does her ongoing web strip, her comic strip, Finding Dee, which, if you've read it, is absolutely hilarious. Um, but but no, so that's basically that's what this is, and I don't want to get into too much because you had some questions you wanted to go to, so I'll let you kind of guide us from there, and I'm sure I'll ramble enough as we go on.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's always the balance, right? Like, we want to tell people what the story is about, but we don't want to spoil. We want people to join the campaign and check out the book themselves. But we can start with Dee's art, which is really energetic and really youthful, which I think, very good choice on, on artist and co-creator here. So, talk a little bit about kind of the character design, the look and feel. Was it just that you saw Dee's art and you knew, hey, this is exactly the kind of aesthetic that I want for the look of the world in Olympian, or was there some back and forth when you kind of invited her to come on the project and you guys kind of went back and forth on, okay, what's the world going to look like? What are these, specifically the characters and what have you? Did it click right away? Give us a kind of
Yeah,
behind the scenes of
yeah.
that
And
process.
so I've known Dee for years and years, and going back to the Heroes and Zeros Kickstarter, um, she actually is the one who designed the Acorn Comics logo. So that was I think the first thing that I asked her to work on as part of the entire Acorn Comics project that I decided to start up. Um, and then she was also kind enough to jump in and do one of the variant covers for Heroes and Zeros #1. I don't know if you remember, Jace, we did one of the really short elevator pitches on that one was Scooby-Doo meets X-Men in the
Oh yeah.
future. And so, given that, and given that we had that story did involve a dog, a rather large dog, um, she did a Scooby-Doo homage cover featuring the characters from Heroes and Zeros, and it just came out fantastic. So again, I've always been a fan of her work. She's done so many different things over the years, between comics, comic strips, which is I think where her true passion lies, but she also is a huge fan of comics and does love doing comics as well. Um, and I wanted someone who, I knew I worked well with her. I knew she had a dynamic style that would fit this story well. And because it goes into a lot of the relationships and a lot of the family and the friendships, and that's where a lot of the drama in this story is going to come from. Um, the expressiveness of her characters is one of the things that I was just really, really sold on as far as asking her to come on board with it. And so when she did, and when she agreed to, I'd actually sent her the scripts, I think, for the first two issues. And she got back to me pretty quick, which made me feel good, and said, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to do it. And then we started doing some of the character designs and the logo design and all that kind of stuff. And I think we might have had one or two back and forth on some of the characters, but it was fairly quick to get the right look that we wanted for it.
Oh, that's cool. I got to mention this too. You and your lovely wife have a rambunctious youngster there. I know in some ways, it's a very personal story for you because, kind of pulling from, your kind of family background and what have you. But the main character, you want to talk about choosing a name for him?
Yeah. So the main character is named Vasilis Meyer. And of course, my son is named Vasilis. Meyer is actually a family name on my side of the family. It's on my mother's side. So that is also a family name that we put together. And one of the reasons I had always thought when I started writing, I wanted to write a character with his name. And that comes from something that Constance had said to me years ago that I don't even know if she remembered saying. And that was, of course, her name Constance is not a particularly common name. And so she just always remembered going out, like if she was at a theme park or just any kind of tourist stop where they had, the magnets with all the kids' names on it. She never saw her name.
Right.
It was always, and to find something that had someone or something with Constance in it was always just a huge deal for her. And so obviously Vasilis is not a particularly common name through most of, in Greece it is, but through most of America, no. So I wanted to give him something like that, something where he can say, hey, there's a character, no matter, how big or small it ends up being, here's my name in a comic book as the main character as a superhero.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, as soon as I saw it, because it's right there on the first or second page, I started smiling. I was like, yeah, there you go. Of course, the main character's saying that. That was awesome.
And I will say too, there's also, and you probably picked up on this as well. The family, it is not a self-insertion. I want to make that, but it is very heavily influenced from our family dynamic, where the mother's side is very, very Greek, and the father is not. But if you're partially Greek, I've learned you're Greek.
Yeah.
So that's that's just how the families work, and it's a wonderful culture, and it's a wonderful, loving family culture that Greek families tend to have, and so I wanted to reflect that as well in the story.
Yeah, and I mean it kind of makes perfect sense, right? Because it gets into that theme of family that you're talking about, and how it's been my, I'm not Greek, but I've had some friends, and I've some young ladies I dated in my younger days that were Greek, so I know exactly what you're talking about when you say, if you're dating one.
Very similar to, in my experience from other young ladies I dated back in my youth, very similar to Sicilian families I found.
Yep. You're welcomed with open arms, but don't put a foot wrong or what have you. But what I do love about it, at least it's been my experience, is that although it's loving and kind of everybody's in everybody's business to some extent, they also don't really put up with a lot from each other either. They call each other on their stuff, which I really enjoy. But it sets up an interesting dynamic for possible drama. You talked about the drama being in the relationships and stuff, and then just the fact that it's Greek, it's Greece, it's gods and myth and legend. So it seemed like it seems like a real natural fit.
And really, and everything sort of felt and came together for me for a lot of things that I wanted to that I was inspired by, and that I kind of wanted to put some Easter eggs in for, because besides the family dynamic, the town that this is set in is very heavily influenced by the town I graduated high school in. It's set in the town of Nifty, New Hampshire. I went to the high school in Keene, New Hampshire. And there are a few things in there that folks from Keene, if you're watching, you will recognize some of the landmarks we put in there. And one of the things that got me thinking about that and got me thinking about setting it there is I wanted it to be a little bit different from standard comics, which of course most are set in some major city, whether it's a real city or a fictional city, Metropolis, New York City, Gotham, whatever it happens to be. There's not as many set in small towns. Mm-hmm. And so I like the idea of putting this in a small town. And Keene, for such a small town, had a fairly strong presence of Greek families. And there was, in fact, we start off on page 1 with Vasilis closing up the family pizza shop. And there was one of the Greek families in town had a pizza restaurant that we would all go to on a regular basis. There's one other thing in there that it isn't too big a surprise, but one of the things that Keene was known for, it was the town where they filmed the original Jumanji. Mm. And that was my senior year in high school. It was 1994. And yeah, they brought in the camera crews. They brought in Robin Williams. And I think they probably had a higher per capita dollar amount from the cinemas in Keene than anywhere else in the country, because everyone in town went to see that movie. So we could see the town square getting rampaged by elephants and giraffes and everything else. So I don't know, and might be a little bit more of a deep cut if you remember that movie very well. But there was the main character, Robin Williams' character, was his father owned the Paris shoe store. And so the Paris shoes mural from that movie is still up in Keene on that same wall that they painted it on, 30 years ago. So there are in a couple of scenes, you'll see a sign for Parsons shoes, best shoes in town since 1995 or something along those lines.
I can't believe it's been 30 years since that movie came out.
I just made myself feel really, really bad.
Time flies. Well, when talking about family, obviously as we're saying, Vasilis' family being Greek and what have you, and those close ties and, tying back to Greek gods and, the heirloom that belongs to his grandparents that, eventually leads him to his powers. The other part of it, when we talk about family, is kind of found family, right? And this idea that, sometimes you're not getting along with your family because you can't choose your family. Your family's your family. But then the idea of, okay, but who are the people you choose to spend time with? Who are the people that you can trust and they care about you and they're going to have your back through thick and thin? Because it does seem like Vasilis has an interesting friend group as well. So where did you pull from that? I mean, are you pulling back from people you knew and amalgamation and so forth?
To a certain extent. There's, I think, elements of several friends mixed together in each. Yeah, and that's something I think in the first few pages we see him going out to meet with his friends after work. And those three particular friends, which is or Dean, Sadie, and Cora, are going to play a huge role in this series as it goes on. And again, first issues, you're doing a lot of world building. You're trying to drop a lot, and obviously keep the story going and keep it entertaining. And I think we've done a nice job of that. I guess I'll toot my own horn a little bit on that, but there's also a lot of stuff that we're laying down markers for issue 2 and for issue 3 and things that we're going to be building upon as the series goes on. And part of that is the relationships between the friends, and Vasilis and the family and his family. And look, if small town dynamics are very interesting. If you, especially for folks who have grown up in the town and have lived there their entire life, there's not a lot of new people coming around.
Yeah.
Every now and again, someone will pop in, but for the most part, if you live in this town that you went to school in, it's probably the town that your parents went to school in and their parents, and that's just where your family's been, and they've known this family for 50 years or however long, and so there's close friendships, but also very intimate knowledge of each other and each other's families. So a lot of that's going to come into play as everything develops through this series.
So you'll have to pick it up, everybody, if you want to get those dynamics and follow Vasilis on his journey as he discovers these powers and how they work and what have you. So for those that want to check out the campaign, link in the show notes, as always, to go and check it out. I'll also remind everybody, as I always do, times have never been tougher, it feels like, and maybe you just want to back this campaign, but you don't have the means right now. Like, we get it, right? So the other way you can help out Paul and Dee and the rest of the creative team is just share this on social media, let your comic shop know, let your other friends that read comics know. So everybody that is able to join the campaign and check out what Paul's building here will have the opportunity, right? And nothing worse than finding out about a Kickstarter like after it's already done and you can't get the book. Luckily, as I mentioned, Paul's got his website, Acorn Comics, where possibly you might be able to get this at a later date. But don't take that risk. Join the campaign. Because the other thing is there's going to be special rewards. It's always a better value to get on the Kickstarter, start to hit those stretch goals and such. So
that's right. Yeah, and we have stretch goals planned, and we're going to announce those as we get closer to hitting them. So we're not going to drop those all right off the bat. But there are definitely going to be some stretch goals. There's going to be some add-ons that you're going to be able to get as well. We're going to do prints for each of the covers that we have available. And one of the things that I haven't put this out as we're recording this. I haven't put this out yet, but I'm getting special antique brass copper coins made.
Oh wow!
That are like stamped metal version of the talisman from the story. Wow, so those are going to be something that it's not going to be a stretch goal, something that you can just go ahead and add on to the order if you want to get those. They're going to be incredibly cool. And I've been racking my brain thinking of things to add on that aren't, kind of the standard Kickstarter rewards. And that's going to be kind of the one unique thing, aside from things like prints and stickers and bookmarks, that we're going to be able to offer on this along with the comic itself.
Yeah, and if you're watching us on YouTube, everybody, that lower right corner below Paul, you can see what the talisman. I mean, it's not the biggest picture or whatever. I'm sure you'll be able to see it much better on the Kickstarter page, but it gives you an idea.
On Kickstarter, on any of my social media, just look; it'll be there. You'll be able to see it. And to your point, Jace, yeah, I mean, look, I appreciate any support. Obviously, would love for everybody that's watching to go back to Kickstarter. If this is coming out before we launch, then follow the Kickstarter, because having more followers, helps you get a better start, and it gets you a little bit more attention from the Kickstarter algorithms to begin with. But from there, hey, if you can't, everyone understands that, but it always helps to share. It always helps to just get the word out. And if you're always going to eventually you get it first through the Kickstarter. That's one of the biggest benefits is you're going to get this before anybody else sees it. Eventually, it will be available on our website, and it will also be available digitally through Global Comics. So we have Heroes and Zeros up there now. We have a 5-page preview of the Olympian up on Global Comics now. So if you're curious, you can go check it out there too as well. But all sorts of ways you can get it. We just love the support, and we are happy for anybody who wants to read the comics.
Yeah, and I mean, this is your second campaign. Obviously, Heroes and Zeros will come back as well, and you mentioned having multiple issues of the Olympian planned. So let's finish up with this as we're winding down here. Has it been any easier this time around? Like lessons learned for the first campaign that you're applying here? Let's make it a little. I mean, I know the stress is the stress, right? Until it's funded, you got that weight on your shoulders.
I wish I could say that it had been easier this time around, Jace. It has not. And I think part of that is just the situation. Like we just moved. We've been going through our family's had a lot going on. So I've probably been a little less active on social media.
Yeah.
And so it's been a little tougher to get things together and make sure I'm getting things out the way I want to get them out. But as far as one thing, production schedule, yes, that has been easier because now I have a month for that. I anticipate that we will have all the art for this done. Again, as we're sitting here right now, 18 of the 22 pages are drawn and lettered, and we just have to get them colored. There's 4 pages left for D to draw. So I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. If they're not all done by the time we launch, it's going to be maybe a week or two in.
Right, yeah.
So everything for this book should be finished by the time the campaign ends or shortly after it ends. This is not a campaign where you're going to back it and have to wait 6 months and get some update. Hope it comes to you before the end of the year. We expect to get this one out. I think, Kickstarter makes you put a target date. And I think with the campaign ending in April, I'm putting June as a target date. And that's just to give me some leeway in case there's some slowdown with the printers.
Right, yeah.
Truthfully, I'm hoping to get it out in May. But certain things out of our control, we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that is the part you mentioned. Real life, maybe this time around things aren't quite as stable, tariffs and printing situation and all that. So best of luck.
Luckily, the printer I use is in America, so I don't have to worry about that. At least I hope not. I don't know how they're affected by tariffs if they have to pay more on supplies, but
or they might just be getting a lot more business. So
possible too. Yeah,
never know. Well, best of luck with the campaign. For sure. But I do love, and I want to point out, I want to stress everybody, like Paul said, this is almost done. This isn't a situation, and we don't begrudge those people where they can't afford to pay the artist until they raise the Kickstarter funds. So they've got to raise the Kickstarter funds, use those funds to pay the artist, and the artist does the work. That's just a reality that some people have to deal with. But that's not the case here. Like Paul said, if you back this, you're going to get it relatively quickly. So, again, link in the show notes. Go and check it out. Any last thoughts to share with our audience? Anything else you want everybody to know, Paul?
I say here, I just would love for everybody to come check it out, come support it. If you want to come see me, I'm actually going to be at a couple conventions this year.
Okay.
I'm breaking into tabling at two one-day shows, both in Florida, one in April 5th in Delray Beach at PalmCon South, and the other one is at First Coast Comic Con in Jacksonville on July 12th. So PalmCon, I will have a link to come support the Olympian. I'll also have Heroes and Zeros and some prints and some of me. I'm expecting to have copies of the Olympian along with Heroes and Zeros when I make my way back up to Jacksonville for First Coast Comic Con.
Cool. Well, I know you're not tabling, but I'm going to see you at San Diego this year, I hope.
It all depends on the child, man.
Fair enough.
I'm hoping, but I can't make any promises. He's 5, so
Yeah.
bringing him to conventions is kind of hit or miss.
Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, again, you can get information about all Paul's projects, acorncomics.com, link in the show notes. And where's the best place? Where are you most at? I mean, I know none of us are as active as we probably should be on social media in terms of promoting things. But where should people be following Acorn Comics on social media?
I've mostly migrated over to Blue Sky. And that's I haven't figured out how to change my handle yet. I need to do that, but for now it's still the one I put up there when I was thinking I was going to be doing more lawyerly stuff. So it's EZAESQ is the Blue Sky handle, and then I am also on Threads, Facebook, and Instagram as well with Acorn Comics.
Fantastic. Well, I'll put a link to a couple of the social medias in the show notes, everybody, as well. So again, you can go there to check out the Acorn Comics website. You can go there to check out the campaign for the Olympian and find some social media there as well. So, Paul, again, best of luck with the campaign. I know I'll be back in probably day one when this episode goes live. So I can't wait to get my hands on it and read the full story. And yeah, great to see you, and my best to Vasilis and Constance.
Hey, thank you so much, Jace. I really appreciate it. Great to see you and great to talk to you.
And on behalf of Paul and myself, everybody, we want to thank you for joining us, whether you're checking us out audio only or on the YouTube channel. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.